Oh, come on.
Hey, Dustin, how are you, bud?
Good. How about you?
Not bad. Long time no talk. It's good.
Yeah, right.
Although I have to admit, I've kind of followed the playing and now coaching career over the years, thanks to the internet. And I got family in Columbus, so when I saw you were there, I had to keep an eye on you.
Oh, really? Who lives here?
My dad's sister, her family's out there. They live in the Dublin area,
Oh,
out
okay,
that
nice.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
I'm over in. Well, I just moved in with my fiance. We live in kind of Grandview, Upper Arlington area.
okay, cool. Yeah, I don't get out there very often. In fact, last time I was out there was for my grandmother's um, memorial service about 3 4 years ago, and we had I flew into Chicago. Then me and my sister drove from Chicago all the way out there, and we hadn't been at the house 15 minutes. That my uncle looks at me and my dad, and he goes, "Let's get in the car. We're going somewhere." I go, "Okay." We weren't even out of the garage, and I said, "How far is it to Brewdog?" And he goes, "How do you know where we're going?" I said, "Because I said, I brew beer and you brew beer, so I know where we're going. We're going to
I
Brewdog."
know it's happening.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was like, I don't. So yeah, I drove across town, went to the brewery, and I'm glad we did. I'm sure you've been there. It's a
Which
cool.
yeah, which one did you go to? The one down in
We went to the main one, the big brewery where they got the hotel and stuff.
yeah,
Of
the
course,
hotel. That's
yeah,
yeah, that's impressive.
yeah. They
That
didn't
whole
have the
setup.
yeah they didn't have the hotel even started yet when we went. But yeah, it's a good place, good beer. I can't remember what one I had. Their Elvis juice is obviously a good one. That's kind of their main one. But
That's the popular one. Yeah.
yeah, there was, I think it was a stout that I had. It was like a 12% ABV and drank, but it drank like a summer beer. I was like, oh my God, this thing could be dangerous.
Yeah, they're yeah.
Yeah. Then I looked at my uncle and said, "Well, you're driving, so I'm going to have another one." And
You
he's
got
like,
this, right? You can get us
"Yeah."
home. We're good. There you
I
go.
mean, I just did a I may have done 3 samplers, but so that I could have all of their beers. But it was like, yeah, I'm going to order the big one.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, so I mean, the job that pays the bills for me is I do business development for a plumbing company and heating and cooling company here called the Waterworks.
uh huh.
And one of our customers was Brewdog. So
Oh,
we
cool.
actually, yeah, so we just went out there, kind of like not a cold call. They're already a customer, just an appreciation call. And they like toured us like the actual hotel once it was done. And yeah, there's just beer at every arm's reach. Like they have
Yeah,
a cooler inside the shower
yeah. And don't they have tap handles
and
too?
they have
So you can
tap
just
handles. Yep.
yeah.
Basically, whatever two beers you want, they put that in there too. And it was, I mean, it's a super night. It was like
Oh yeah.
modern and fancy. I was like, I think you guys are attacking the wrong demographic here, but
Well,
whatever.
those two guys, they had a show on Spike Network for a while, brewing beer in different places, different ways. Like they went to Colorado and used only the sun. They were in Chicago and used only wind. They brewed beer on a train, and it's just all these different weird things. So,
Yeah.
but do you know why they built their brewery in Columbus and said they had the whole country to choose from, but they chose Ohio?
Don't, didn't they, isn't there, aren't they in Ireland too or something or somewhere?
Well, yeah, they started in Scotland,
Yes. That,
and
okay. Scott.
then they wanted to open
Yeah.
a
Why'd they
brewery in
choose,
America,
why'd they choose
and
beer?
they chose Ohio because the Ohio liquor laws are as close to the Scottish liquor laws. So they figured if they're going to start here, they don't have to change much. But
Yeah.
the other main reason is Scotland for a long time had a cap on the ABV of a beer, and then they lifted it. So they said, all right, we are going to make the highest ABV beer we possibly can. And it's something like 50% off the top of my head.
Oh,
Not
God.
exact, but it's $10,000 a bottle. And so they said, if you're going to,
Yeah, I've heard it. Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
so they're like, if you're going to pay this much for a bottle, you should have something left over. So the bottle comes inside a taxidermied squirrel.
I like that. That's a keepsake. There you go.
But they could do that in
Yeah,
Columbus as well. So that's why they chose Ohio of
that's crazy.
all the states, because it's like a world class, brewery. Um, but yeah, it's good beer, good place to hang out. I
Oh
think
yeah.
they had. I don't remember. I think they had food even at the brewery,
Yep.
but
They have a restaurant It's pretty big too.
Yeah.
And they got all the outdoor like adult games like some cornhole and whatever, like darts, everything. So
dog friendly, and then they have the giant Lego reproduction of the brewery right in Milwaukee. It's a cool place.
Yeah.
Of all the places I've been in Columbus, that's probably one of my favorite.
No, it's a good spot.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've listened to any of the podcast episodes, but the idea behind it is really to talk to goalies of all ages and skill levels, and just talk goaltending and whatever else. But one of the questions I always like to ask folks is, how did you get started in the game of hockey? I know being in Forest Lake, hockey's a big thing, but Forest Lake, baseball and wrestling are the bigger sports there. So, what was it about hockey that you're like, no, that's the route I'm going?
I mean, growing up, so I did everything, baseball, I think soccer. My dad was a skier, so I was doing that a lot. And my parents were always just open to me doing whatever. Athletic sports, whatever, anything I wanted to try. And my memory of it, and it could be way off, obviously, but as I remember,
it's what we're going with.
My dad the North Stars were playing. It was on TV, and I was just watching it, and I was just like, I looked back, I was like, can I try this? And he's okay. And literally that fall, it was already fall, but I think I got into skating lessons and then just kept doing that. Like I became pretty good at skating quick. Not, like I couldn't stop or anything, but I could actually motor pretty good, or like, my whole, like in those things where it's just like, they have like 100 kids on the ice and you're in the sections. And, they're like, all right, just skate across the other boards. And there's one other kid in the group that was good. And it was just, the goal was to beat him. So we just fly as fast as we could and just run into the boards. And I thought I was good at that. So I just kept skating with it. And then all my buddies who I became friends with them from like, Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts.
Yep.
And they all played hockey, and I had started that. So it was kind of like, all right, let's play hockey now.
Well, and you mentioned the North Stars, and I coached you when you were in high school. So I know that when the North Stars left Minnesota, so you had been a little guy when that started.
Correct. They were gone. What was it, 92?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, they were gone. And then once I got in my hockey, like my dad was, he was CEO of a printing company, Carlson Printing.
Yep.
And they had the University of Minnesota account with all the athletics. So he just quickly got season tickets to the games, and I had a bunch of posters in my room of the Gophers. So the Gophers that was my team. I didn't really watch NHL growing up. I just watched college hockey.
Well, and that was really what I would say the heyday of the Gophers too, because they were the team in town. The North Stars had left. The Wild hadn't started yet. And I mean, you couldn't buy a ticket to the Gophers if you didn't have season tickets. And to get them on the secondary market, I mean, you were paying an arm and a leg. It wasn't until probably just before COVID, I think, that I finally went to my first Gopher game because of that. Because now, I mean, you could throw a basketball through Mariucci and find an open seat.
Right? It's gone a little down. It's kind of crazy. I mean, like the other weekend when they played Nodak, like I think it was fans were like 40 to 60, 40% Nodak, 60% Gophers.
Yeah, but at least they're starting to fill the place up again. I mean, there's still open seats, but it's not as bad as it was there for a while.
I mean, it's crazy too. When you look up their line chart too, it's like there's an NHL emblem next to every single player. Like, all right, where's their entire team is pretty essentially drafted.
Well, and I think part of it maybe went back to the later Don Lucia days when he just picked those kids that were drafted and he knew they'd only be there for a year. So it's not like the championship years. So those guys were there for 3-4 years and you got to know who they were. And
I mean, and right now you got the cream of the crop from that 02-03 team, Paul Martin. He's with the Gophers now as a grad assistant. So, I mean, you're getting that leadership. That's what he is right now, I guess, talking with Steve Miller, who was here at Ohio State with me, who I learned so much from. That guy is a wealth of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
If you try and ask him any question about any college hockey player, he will know their stats and where they play juniors. It's insane. Like
He's
we
the
played
Pierre
game.
Maguire of college
Oh
hockey.
my God. Everybody leading scorers in all the programs. But anyways, Killer was telling me that like right now, Paul Martin's their like leadership coach at the Gopher. So like I think 2 days a week, they have like an hour leadership class and stuff. So, I mean, they're doing some different things there that starting to work right now. So,
well, and they've really been investing in Mariucci too to make it, an NHL experience for these guys because they know, to your point, all of them have been drafted. So
yeah.
how do you keep them around? You give them that experience. In fact, they've been known for having their Olympic ice, and they're narrowing the sheet down. They're going down to the NHL
I know.
sheet.
Well, it's kind of funny that they're doing that because the players, you're not, you want them to play. That's where they're going to develop on that sheet and stuff. But it is such an home ice advantage for them. Like, I mean, I can't. I think the last since I've been here, I think we're probably we played them 10 times. We're probably 2-8 there.
Yep.
It's just a nightmare to play there. So it's funny how they're going back to like develop these players, but they're losing like their huge home ice advantage of trying to play on that big sheet.
Yeah. Well, when I was down at St. Mary's, I mean, we were no powerhouse by any means, but that home ice always gave us an advantage for that home game of the weekend. It was, we might not win the game, but it was a much closer game because of it.
Yeah.
But my wife works for Trane Heating and Cooling on the commercial side.
Nice.
And when she was working out of the Twin Cities office, she was doing stuff with chillers and started talking to the folks at the U. And so they invited us to a few games. And I think it was actually the Ohio State game we went to 2 years ago.
Who is?
Yeah.
2 years ago. So it was, you would have saw Tommy play. Yeah, yes. He was our, yeah.
So we were there and they were talking, just as you said, that, that they've got all these NHL commitments and teams want their kids to develop on NHL ice. And that was the driving factor. And then the athletic director was sitting there in the box with us too. And he kind of turned his head and he goes, and we can get more seats. So it's, let's not kid ourselves. It is a little bit about the money too.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here going, let's fill the seats you guys have before you
let's start there before before you go up. I mean, I'm going to hopefully try because I know they've made renovations. I've seen pictures here and there, over the years on remodeling, and hopefully, I know their director of ops too. He worked with us as a student manager here, Jacob Leroy's. So hopefully either him or Killer can give me a little tour of their place to see what it has.
Yeah. To the fan, the changes aren't noticeable because so much of it is underneath for the players, the locker room, the rehab side of things. I skate with a bunch of guys, firefighters from Hugo and White Bear, and there was a fire police game there like 2 weeks before COVID shut everything down. And so we got to go down there, or that's what it was. Ohio State was coming to town that weekend.
Okay.
And I could have gone to that game, but didn't. So that the game I went to with my wife, I forget who they were playing, maybe Notre Dame or something. I don't know. But they were playing Ohio State that night because I took a picture of the Ohio State magnet on the door and sent it to my uncle. But it's just how nice even in the visiting locker rooms down there. It's a nice building.
Yeah, I mean they're a nice program. They treat you well. Everything's top notch.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, so let's get back to talking about you getting started in hockey. So you're doing the Learn to Skates up at the old Maroon and Gold, the oldest damn rink ever. I was just talking to somebody this weekend saying, when I was coaching, that the Blue Line Club got us parkas because it was so darn cold on the bench. But at what point were like, you know what? I want to go play goalie.
So that story I know vividly. That was it literally was. I had my first team practice of mites or whatever with all my friends and stuff. And again, could have been a different experience, but how I remember it was coach has, my coach, when I was young, Mike Williamson and his son, my good friend was Sean. And I remember him saying like, all right, like, so we're going to need a goalie. Who wants to play goalie? And all the kids skated up to him and me, like, I want to try. And I remember waiting, and then he's just like, all right, calm down, go away. And then I skate up to him quietly, and I go, can I please play goalie? And he goes like, I'll give you the gear next session or next practice. The lead into that, though, was before the practice, I heard my mom and dad talking, and my mom was like, he can play any position except goalie. So I like go up nice. And then I remember getting the gear and them arguing. My dad was like, well, he'll have the most equipment on anybody, so he'll be the most protected. So Jesus like, all right, we'll try it. And, that was it.
And that was the story. And I remember your parents were good hockey parents. And the way I can say that is I hardly ever interacted.
Yeah. My dad was, he just.
Yeah, yep. They're like, is he playing today? Okay. Is he not? Okay. Like they never complained. I interacted more with your dad when I was designing the posters and handing off the files to him because he usually printed them for the team.
Yep, he did that. So for the blue line, he printed our posters. So that was your.
That was my interaction with you. Yeah, it's like Aaron Padich. His parents lived down the street from me, and it's like I remember you now. I couldn't recognize him, but I saw the last name when my son was sawing Boy Scout wreaths, and I was like, Padich, do you guys have a son, Aaron? And they're like, yeah. And it's like, okay, now I remember you because his parents were like yours. They were just quiet and out of the way.
He was. I mean, my dad was. That's probably why I got as far as I did because there was zero pressure. Honestly, as long as I wanted to do it, he was willing. Like. He would throw me in camps that I wanted, AAA stuff, once I started to get good and tryouts and all that. And he had no 2 cents about it. And I guess in Forest Lake, though, we got lucky in the sense that there was a huge age gap between the goalies. So from my year, like basically all the goalies would move on from, you play 2 years of squirt, 2 years of P-League year. So they would play their 2 years of squirt, move on. All the goalies coming in were me, Brett Sawyer, you remember, and then I forget the other guys, unfortunately. But so it was basically the two best of us. We would play A, and so I would, I say minimal competition necessarily, but because they were pretty good, I think, all organizations. Like, all right, the older kids are making the A team, if it was borderline, they would give it. So, but we always got to develop because we were just, we would play stiff older kids immediately our first year. Yeah. And then I don't think you weren't there when we were super young because our team, my second year. So the first year we were good. I think you were there in high school. You were there when,
your senior year.
My senior. Okay. So
that was my first year coaching.
Okay. So those guys, that was my group of guys who was our second year. And it was pretty evident that senior year when we went 8-17 and 2, we were not, they were unfortunately love the guys to death, but just not the best team by any means. Yeah. The guys that had left were that was the good team. So our first year we played with older guys and they were good and we could win. And then the next year we just get shelled with shots and that's better and we move on.
Yeah, because the year I came in was your senior year. So Sawyer wasn't skating that year.
He was gone. Yeah. You had, it was me.
New
Yar.
Brandon.
Yeah. New Yar was but then
we have a year younger. And then Nate Burris was the younger guy.
He was the other guy too, but below that,
Yeah, and that there were 2 other guys that kind of rotated in and out because the Fritzinger and Moberg were so younger; they were playing bantams at the time. But was your senior year the year we went into Cloquet and won the game with 0.8 seconds left on the clock, or was that the next year?
That would have been the next year, I think. Yeah, I think we beat Cloquet at home at Maroon and Gold. But I don't think, I think we went there and we got I don't know if we went there that year. I think we played them at home my senior year. I remember playing.
Okay. Yeah, then it would have been the year after you graduated. We went up there. Dustin Kendrick was playing JV that game, broke his leg in the first period. So Mr. Kendrick takes him to the hospital in Cloquet, and must have been a slow night because he got back in the second period of the varsity game, and he's standing there with crutches and a splint and everything, just cold as can be. You know, late January Cloquet game was like 30 below plus wind chill, and the boys were just buzzing and playing hard, and it was a tie game late, and we go down, and with 0.08 seconds left on the clock, I think it may have been Crit. I think he was the one that put the puck in the net with 0.08 seconds left, and you could just feel the air come out of a building. Like, what just happened? And it didn't matter how cold it was that night. That was a nice bus ride home. And even Dustin wasn't feeling any pain. He's like, I don't know if it's the excitement from the game or the drugs they gave me at the hospital, but I feel good.
Yeah, that's when Cloquet was, I mean, they were good too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were going to state those years. That was a fun section, you know, going up to Cloquet to Grand Rapids and East.
Yeah, well, now your first year, we went. I don't know if you remember that. Like, I remember we went into Grand Rapids, one of our first games of the year, and we played against Skalagoski.
Yeah,
and we were winning. We were up 4-3-1 or 3-0, and then all of a sudden their team was like, "Oh, it's the third period. Oh crap, our bad."
Yeah,
and then and then Skalagoski got the hat trick and like assisted on the game. Like it was just like I don't know what happened. It was just like we just did not want to play shutdown D, but I just remember that place, and I was like, "Oh, this is our year." And they're like, "Nope."
Well, your senior year was my first year after college. I'm just coaching, you know, trying to get back to the game, and come out for tryouts. And it's like, well, he's our starter. Carl already told me, he's like, we got our starter figured out. We just need to figure out the JV stuff. And it's like, okay, I'll take a look though and see what and I was like, yeah, that one's figured out. And you know, to be honest, you were technically sound and you were confident. And it was like, so my philosophy with you, because you really wanted me to work with the JV guys because they needed the most work. But I was like, with you, I'm going to say as little as possible because I don't want to mess you up because you had that confidence. You know, that's why they called you Cash Money. It's just like, yeah, you're coming out, you had those sleeves rolled up, kind of tucked into your chest protector.
Oh, I love the gross style.
The chin was always high, you know, with your Warwick mask. You're just like, you know, you had swagger out there. So I'm like, I'm just going to leave this kid alone. There were a few times throughout the year where, you know, I saw something and I would mention it to you, but you were receptive. You know, you weren't like, who the hell are you? Like this kid
that's good to hear. I couldn't remember necessarily, but I always thought like dealing with coaches, I would listen and be like, okay.
Oh yeah. Well, because I with the JV guys, there was an issue of like, what do you know? You played your high school hockey in Chicago, and then I think it was the second year we were playing in a Christmas tournament in Fenwick, who was in the Catholic League. One of the teams I played against was there, and they just beat the shit out of everybody and won the tournament. And after that, the guys are like, so high school hockey where you played was actually pretty good. It's like, yeah, guys.
Yeah.
But it was that Christmas Eve skate that we always had that first year coaching for the JV. I put my pads on, and I did that purposefully because guys were coming down.
I remember this.
Yeah, guys were coming down, and they didn't know I was flexible, so I was just waiting for them. You know, baiting them to make a move and just break out the splits, and they're like, "Oh!" But it was kind of funny on how after that, they weren't chirping me anymore. Like, oh, what do you know? You weren't that good. It was like, okay, you know what you're doing here. I kind of felt like at that point I needed to prove what I knew. Now I'm too old to do. I'm still flexible. I still do the splits, but I'm too old. I don't have that much energy.
You had to do it. I remember because Beers in New York, or Beer, I forget how to say his name. In New York, they were more a little strong-headed on the fact of who they were.
Yeah, and Nate was actually pretty good to coach. He was a kid I could look at him and just say, "Get your head out of your ass." He's like, "Oh, okay, yeah." He was good in that regard, but he was also going to Stauber clinics at the time,
Oh, okay.
and some of what they were teaching at the time, it didn't go against what I thought should be taught.
Yeah.
I felt it went against Nate's style of play. And they were
Yes.
trying to, rather than look at the goaltender and say, this will work for you, they were, at the time anyway, more of, this is how we want all of our goalies to play.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I'm going,
No.
so I
No.
had to play that fence a little bit because his dad was also a goalie. But he's like, I played in the 70s with fiberglass masks. The game's changed. But I knew he was the one paying to send him to these clinics. And I didn't want to be like, Nate, no, they're telling you the wrong thing. Not that it's wrong, but it's wrong for your play.
You. Yeah.
And so I had to play that one delicately. And I think I did a good job with him because he did get better. And, he played well when it was his turn to be a varsity goalie. But, I mean, for the most part, you goalies were all receptive to my coaching, but you were all very different personalities.
Yeah. I get. Yeah. I mean,
because after you, it was Neuauer, it was Burris. Oh God, I can't remember the kid's name. He only stuck around for like a year or two on JV, but he was kind of a nutcase. But
who?
it wasn't his fault. He had stuff going on at home,
Oh,
so
okay.
he was getting into trouble at school and this and that. And so the one day I just put my arm around him and was like, everything okay? And then he kind of opened up and let me know the
Yeah.
stuff that was going on at home. I was like, okay, so I need to put my arm around you. I need to be a little softer with my
Yeah.
approach. But the other coaches weren't getting that. And they're like, why does he listen to you? It's like, because I understand how to get to him. But then we had Moberg, who you didn't even have, like, I could just give him a look and he's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
The kid was smart. He went
was
to,
smart and coachable. I remember
yeah.
that about him. Just like, because he even reached out to me when I was playing college or done with college, and he reached out to me when he was playing juniors. Just like his question was something about like low shot games, how you stay involved, and I was just like, well, just reaching out. I'll give him my advice. Like, which there's no right answer to low shot games. You just got to find a way to stay in game as best you can. It sucks, but now the big thing is like playing the puck. You know what I mean? Guys are dumping in, like play the puck, move it, do something like that. If you're good at it, that's what we preach at Ohio State. Like our guy can. I don't know if you watched him play, but
yeah, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Moberg go to the Air Force Academy?
Yep, he played at Air Force for. Yeah, I just don't think he had the. I think he came in with an opportunity, and I just don't know if it ever panned out necessarily.
Yeah,
as like a starter or something, but he played a handful at least games, I thought.
And then there was Fritzinger, and that kid, he had the personality of a goalie, but you probably remember his parents.
Yeah,
they were the fact that both boys weren't goalies shocked me because the whole family had the personality of goalies.
I remember, so like after my senior year, that summer I worked the STP.
Yeah.
No. This was before my senior year. I was doing the summer, so I did the high school, but then I was coaching the younger kids. Fritzy was I think it was Pee-wees or Bantams, can't remember, but Moberg decided not to do STP because he was doing other stuff because he's talented and whatever.
Yeah, he was an athlete.
Yeah, well, he was AAA and summer and doing like some stuff like I don't know if it was Stauber's camp, the other goalie camps and stuff, and it wasn't frowned upon. It's like all right, you don't have time for STP, we get it, but so they only had like 3 goalies or 2 goalies for STP at that level. So I was working with them constantly. Fritzy was obviously the better of the 2 or 3 that were there. So I just grinded him and was just like working on making him better. And my like claim to fame for me that kind of got me interested in coaching way back then was like I'd gone back to juniors or something. I don't know what I was doing. I can't remember when I did it, but whatever I went back to, my dad like called me and was like, hey, Fritzy made the team over Moberg. I was just like, yes, like I guess in tryouts, Moberg didn't do well, and they were all like, they had Fritz picked as like number one. It's like, well, that's not going to last, but you know what I mean? It was just like,
the thing I liked about coaching Fritz Singer, I mean, he was a goofball, but
yes,
you could grind him
yeah,
and push him as hard, and like he would
that's
just.
true.
And I
It
mean,
was just go, go, go.
and he might have an attitude and like chirp back at you, but he was still going to do it. It was just, and that's one of the things I really appreciated about him was that. And something that can't be taught is after a goal was scored on him, he had that Ted Lasso, be a goldfish, like, okay, whatever.
Yep.
The game's going on.
He would just like, I would be on the side. I remember like upset just watching him on stuff, and he'd just be like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I got the next one." Okay.
Yeah.
And he would. Yeah. But yeah, you could grind him hard. That's back when like before coaches learned better. Like I remember I would do like every goal you let in on a drill. It was like 5 up downs or something.
Yeah.
And there would just be one where he was just getting lit up, and I'd be like, all right, you got 60. Let's go. Which isn't really good for development, but the last one, he's just flopping down.
Right.
Like,
you've got nothing left.
All over the place. It's just like, it was just like.
Which, I mean, I could make the argument it plays a role in the development because there's those games where you're just getting shelled and you're going to be tired. So how do you play when you're tired? So, but yeah, I mean, maybe not ideal, but there was some development there. But you brought up something too about Forest Lake at the time. And this is to Carl, in that if you didn't participate in STP, we didn't hold it against you because we knew you weren't doing it because you were playing another sport or something else. And Carl said all the time, for even the fall stuff, like if you're playing football or soccer and that's why you're not making it, that's fine. That's what you should be doing at these other times.
Yes.
Because my boy, he plays baseball, not hockey, and that's cool. But like I see it so often with so many of my friends and, his friends where they're playing year round because if they don't, they have no shot at making any team, yet alone the A team.
Yep.
Even if they might not love the game, but they feel pressured to play through the whole summer, where maybe if you didn't pressure them to play the whole summer and, around this, they would like the game more, and might they be as good? Nah, who knows?
Yeah.
But that's not the point of it. The talent is always going to rise to the NHL. I think
it finds a way. Yeah, it's not a secret.
Yeah,
like it's going to find a way, and it does. And it's
right.
Yeah, I remember my SDP. I forget what year it was, but Kendrick's dad was running Dryland.
Yeah.
And we had Dryland before on the ice. I was in high school because I could drive myself, and I had put together my own off-ice program.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing it before STP on my own at home, or I would do it after STP, just depending on how I felt. And unbeknownst to him or anyone, I really didn't tell anybody I was doing that. I was like, oh, I'll just show up for the ice, and I skate in, I show up, and he's like, you can't skate unless you do the off-ice stuff. And I was just like, says who? Because he never been my coach or anything. I was just like, who are you? And I was just like, all right, I guess you don't have a goalie today. And I said, but me being who I was, and like I told my dad, and he was just like, I guess you're doing their off ice then. And I was just like, all right. And sure enough, the next time I show up for off ice and just do it and stuff. But I just remember just having an attitude with them. But they didn't really care necessarily, especially with Carl. Like it wasn't. Yeah. If you have stuff going on, you have stuff going on. I mean,
and even during the season, if you missed practice because you were doing homework or studying, that was more important. We understood that. But yeah, it was a decent coaching staff. And that my first year coaching, we had, what was Jerry Parzino? He was a character.
I mean, well, for me, like I grew up with like the same coaches my entire career. Like it was Mike Williamson. He moved on and Jerry was my squirt coach. And then he moved up with his kid, Phil, and so he was my Pee Wee coach. Then I hit Bantams. Once I hit Bantams, I had Carl for like 7 years. Because he did my first year Bantam, second year Bantam. Then he was the JV coach.
Yeah.
And then he was the varsity coach for like my last 2 years. And like I had Jerry, who was the JV coach when I was going flip-flopping between. I didn't play varsity. I mean, that was Brett was still playing. I would back up. But I would play the games.
Get the games in, yeah.
I like Jerry. I mean, Jerry was a goalie when he was a kid, but I like Jerry before games. He would just be like, he'd be like, "Hey, we're thinking of playing because I think New Yard was my backup. We're thinking of playing New Yard. What do you want?" And I was just like, "Well, I wanted to play tonight." He's like, "Okay, you'll play." Like that was the conversation. I was just like, "Oh, this is nice."
It was fun coaching with Jerry because, to your point, he was a goalie, but he played in the 70s when it was stand-up goaltending. And he would get so upset when you guys were playing the butterflies. Like, can't they just stand up to make those saves? It's like, Jerry, the game has evolved. Yeah. Like, we're wearing helmets now, Jerry.
Yeah.
And he's like,
so when I was in Squirt, was it Jerry? Yeah, when Jerry was my first coach, we had Matt Stendhal's dad, Joel Stendhal. I don't know if you were.
Yeah, the name's familiar.
Yeah. Well, Matt he was also a goalie in this, back in that time.
Yeah.
And so he was our first goalie coach, me and Brett Sawyer, and we were being taught stand up.
Yeah.
We were I still have my Squirt VHS Squirt A highlight tape. I'm making skate saves in that thing. Yes. I'm just full out skate saves, and they're just timed perfectly where it's just what are you doing? It's hilarious. That's what we were taught. That's what I was taught.
That's what I was taught as a kid. In fact, my first pair of association leg pads were brown leather pads.
Yeah.
And I had a waffle board blocker and a 70s era. I'm playing hockey in the mid 90s, early to mid 90s, and our association still has equipment from the 70s. I was like, what is going on here? But what's interesting is take away learning how to make a skate save and stacking the pads, which I think we should bring back because I still use it, and it's useful if you know it's a tool in the toolbox. If you know when to use it, It's a great save.
Oh, I do it in beer league all the time here.
Me too.
You just do it right. Actually, I robbed somebody with it last night, and then they got a lucky bounce. I did the pad stack across because I was like, all right, this kid's going to try and cut back. So let's shove the pads at him and then throw the stick out. And it worked, and then it bobbled over my stick, and then he got a rebound. But anyways, it's useful if you know when to use it.
But so many of those basics of goaltending that we learned in a different era are still taught today. The basic stance, the aim. It's funny when I look back at how much has changed, but still how much has stayed the same.
Yeah, I mean, well, you touched on it you had Burris going to Stauber, and they're teaching him things that aren't right for him. I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, I got 3 very different goalies right now. I got Riley, Herbst, Ryan Snowden, Jakob Dobers. They all stand differently. They all move differently. They all have different aspects to their game. It's about saying the right thing to each one, kind of to to develop them how I want them to play. I mean, one of the big things I push is we're aggressive.
Yeah.
We are, if you watch Jakob, he's fine being 5 feet out of the crease, and a lot of, what was that whole thing? It was depth control or box
control. Yeah, it changes every couple of years what they call it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my gripe with that is you're you don't have to be out. You'll just make the save here. It's well, I want everything hitting us right here, just in the So if you go out, this is the only place they can shoot. Our save every time is just chest.
Yeah. Well, and I remember watching you play. You weren't even at the top of the crease. You were out of the crease. But to your point, it was so simple for you. You made the position look simple most of the time. You just go down and the puck's, right in your chest.
They find you. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just you have to have those strong legs you have a lot more space to cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Play moves.
That was
that's
part
the
of
difference.
Yeah, I mean, well, and then to that point, I have, Tommy Napier, he had the gift of of that control and when to use it. So he just had a sixth sense to like, this guy's shooting 6 feet out of the crease.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's passing top of the crease, pass across, controlled slide right into him.
Yep.
Then I got Jakob, who's basically always 5. He's just way out of the crease because, all right, if you make the pass, I have the power and the ability to still cover that amount of space and time, which he does. So it's just, there's no right way to do it or coach or how to do things. It's just like promoting what they already do well.
Yep.
And if there's some weird bad habits of sorts, like you can work on that. You don't try and take those out. Like Riley, for instance, he's a big RVH kid. He likes to go into it as a stance rather than like a save selection.
I hate that.
Yeah. It's I like that creation of it, but I don't like how guys use it as a stance, especially if the puck's directly behind the net. It's like, why are you down? Like they can't score from here. Like,
right.
And now once they make a pass out, like it's so hard to. Our natural push is just to the center of the net. So if they pass it to the soft spot, you're pushing away from the puck. So, but it was like I want him to be able to use that just accordingly. It's just like find a way to like hold your feet as long as possible.
Right. Yeah. It's interesting too because I've been reflecting on this a lot this week after my latest beer league game.
Nice.
But how when you play competitive hockey, through a certain level, for me it was JV Division III, we expect certain things to happen in a game. And then when you get to the beer league, that doesn't happen. So you have to adjust your own game. So I used to play further out, but so much of the beer league, as you probably know, is let's get it below the goal line and try and pass it out.
Yep.
And not only pass out, but cross ice. Well, if you have any kind of decent D, that's never going to be an issue then. You can just stand on the post and let it clear the zone. Like you said, if you have decent D. Yeah. So I'm doing a lot of cross ice stuff. So I'm like, I can't play out as much as I would like to because I got to be able to move cross ice quick.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been a very good fall season. I'll just put it that way. But,
I did it last night, like, because there are times where I just know guys are shooting, I come way out, but then there's other times I make saves and I'm like, I don't like that I'm inside the blue paint right now, but like, I just knew what they were going to do. So you just kind of play to it. I mean, my team has one rule. They all know it. Do not block shots. Get out of my way.
Yeah. One of the things that has helped me this year, I'm one of those weirdos that throws the GoPro up behind the net. It started when my son was in Cub Scouts and they had to do something for that. And he's like, and it's like, well, this is kind of cool and kind of useful for me. So I throw it up and then I use Brian DeCord's Stop It game day app. And
nice.
So I track my shots, not to see what my numbers are, but to see, okay, I got lit up last night, but I feel like I played good. According to the expected goals against, did I really play good?
Nice.
And for the most part, all season, even though we've been getting lit up and we're bottom of the league, like my expected goals against, I'm usually within about 1 goal of that. Now, what I don't like of the app is it doesn't have for the skill level a beer league level. So like
it just predicts.
Right. It's like youth hockey, high school hockey, or pro. Well, what do I pick? So I just go pro because what the hell? So I'm like, according to those algorithms, I'm within, round 1 expected goals against. But if they had a true beer league, would it be different? It's something I've been thinking about. And like I've had Brian on the podcast, so I'm close to crafting an email, like, because what I do like about the app is, they did all kinds of testing and everything, and I talked to him. It's when you track your games, you're not sharing your data with other people. You're not sharing it with the Stop It folks or anything like that. But I almost wonder if when you selected Beer League, that could open it up and send the data back to them so they could get that repository of, different plays. And because I'm a data analyst. So I'm looking at going, if there was the beer league level on there, and it sent all that data, they could get a realistic, this is what you should have for a beer league expected goal. So I've been toying with that one. I may have to reach out to him and share my thoughts.
Oh yeah, I mean, occasionally, like, well, I mean, so I wasn't playing beer league, and then I started coaching for Ohio State, and then I literally decided to start doing it mostly to basically know what I was teaching.
Yeah.
So like, I knew RVH and stuff, but I got back to it, and I mean, I have live barns, so occasionally I'll watch my games to see like, and it's mostly so I know what I'm like talking about still, you know what I mean? Instead of like, like actually feeling what these guys are doing, like stuff I preach, like over, square, like up and out, get set, you know, all my stuff. I'm like, so I'm, you know, I'll coach myself on it. I mean, my own personal video sessions with myself are way worse than the ones I do with them. Well, I mean, like they're all better than me. So it's just like, this is good. This is good. All mine are like improve. So.
Well, and it's funny you say it because, I mean, you remember seeing me on the ice when I was coaching. I just replaced that set of equipment last year.
Oh,
so now I'm playing in modern V9s, and it's like now
how nice is it?
Oh, it's incredible.
Oh my God. So that, because yeah, I got a pair of our equipment manager at Ohio State was nice enough to let me. He gave me a pair of one of our old goalies. Like, so I had the Bowers now, like, you know, the nice ones.
Yeah.
Like, whatever last ones. Oh my! Every time I wear it, and then like I have a chest protector from them too, and pants. And it's just like the only thing I'm missing is new skates technically, but all the equipment. It's just like if I had this.
Right. Well, and that part of me was scared to get the new stuff after so long. I'm like, how is that going to impact my game? And it really hasn't. If anything, it's helped me because now I can do some of that sliding, but trying to learn how to do the butterfly slide.
Yeah.
When I don't have practice to do it, like I have maybe 30 seconds after stretching before I got to take, you know, my 4 shots before the horn blows. So I'm slowly starting to, you know, get control of my butterfly slide. But I'm like, if I could coach it right now, but to actually do it with the equipment on is a lot different. And one of the things I've been talking to some of the other goalies I skate against who came up the way, you know, in the era I did. One of the things that's hurting me right now on the butterfly slide is I'm still wearing my 22-year-old Reactor 5 goalie skates with cowlings. You almost need a cowlingless skate. Out. Yeah, and you know, and because the newer skates, the blade and whatnot, you're further off, and it's like that is the one thing hurting me in having a good controlled butterfly slide right now. And it's
these new skates are. I've tried a pair on. Yeah, I'm just need to find a way to get some at cost. But
I was gonna say get some of those new Bauer Connects.
Well, they sent them in for all 3 of our guys to try, and then I remember asking our equipment manager, "Did anybody keep them?" And he's like, "No, I sent them back already. None of your guys liked them." I was just like, "You didn't want to." The real bad thing is all my guys, none of them wear the same size as me. They're all different size feet to me. I just want the ones that are like. I think it was Snowden, he's a senior now, so he's got like 3 pairs just sitting in his locker. I'm like, what size shoe are you? He's like 11 and a half. I was like, that's not going to work.
Well, you got to talk to, you know, the recruitment team and say, you know, this is what I'm looking for in a goalie, you know, this height, this shoe size.
Shoe size. That's the breaking point. Like, they're like, I'm just like, yeah, we've been talking to this guy and you. What size shoe do you wear? 10 and a half? I think I like you, sir. Like,
exactly. So we've been talking. Well, I got some things I want to touch upon before I get to the. So when I was coaching you, I remember, you know, it was around before state playoffs, and there was a little downtime. As you know, asking you what your plans were for after graduation. You know, were you looking at any colleges? Were you going to go play juniors or whatnot? And you weren't too sure yet, but you said, you know, your dream was to play at Yost Arena, and you really, you know, you were hoping to play for the University of Michigan. Well, you got to play at Yost Arena, but you wound up playing for the arch rival Buckeyes. You know, obviously they're the ones that gave you the opportunity, but you know that first trip into Yost, what was that like for you?
Oh yeah, I mean it was Honestly, it wasn't as what a because I mean, so my mentality is like kind of like loyalty. You could say loyalty or whatever. So the second I
Yeah.
signed up with Ohio State, it was like, all right, everyone else can suck it. Like
Right.
So when I got in there, I basically played it off as underwhelming. Like, oh, this place isn't that great. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's got the history and stuff, but yeah, it was. I do remember the first game there though, because it's when they were unreal.
Yep.
Forget the Porter and everybody. So I'm on the bench backing up Palmer, and I just remember Max Pacioretty going by. We won the game or something, like we were about to win, and I remember him skating by and just. I mean, I won't say exactly what I said, but I just chirped him hard, and he's just like back at me. He's like, "You're on the effing bench," and I just started laughing back at him. And I'm like, "And you're losing," like something like that. It's just like, and then I didn't know who he was. I didn't really follow players that closely, and then all of a sudden, like, okay, he's pretty good, and like
Yeah.
he's in the NHL for years and stuff. But yeah, that was, yeah, actually, my biggest moment was probably, again, I was backing up, unfortunately, but was going into Mariucci and sitting on the bench, and a bunch of the guys that I went to high school with, or I was friends with. I remember they come down in the first period because you sit on the bench in Mariucci, and the fans are right there. It's just glass.
Well, and their bench, why the hell do they have it so high? Like, our feet don't have to dangle when we're sitting on it.
That too. I'm just like sitting up the whole time. But I remember like it's the first period, like we're playing, like it was like my parents got to see me, and like I'm like, yeah, this is where I grew up watching hockey, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
I always dreamed of being on that like anthem line, and now I'm on the bench. And then all of a sudden, like I just hear like a bunch of banging on a glass, and like my guys like just like flicking me off and everything, and like and I'm just like, I look over to see what my coaches are doing. I'm just like straight face forward, like just go away, guys. Like,
right, don't get me in trouble. But
yeah, I was just like, don't get me in trouble. Yeah, basically. So that was.
Did you get to play at Mariucci or just back up?
No, I just backed up. I mean, there was the thought in my head, like basically like, all right, so if we're gonna play, I need him to get lit up. That was like, what I mean? Like Palmer was a great goalie. I mean, he was U.S. programmed, 4th round pick from the Blackhawks. I think he just had a rough go. Like that, actually, he started out super well. Had sophomore year that I was backing him up, and for whatever reason, our team just didn't pan out to be very well. And I think he took a lot of heat for it. But yeah, I wasn't. Basically, when I went there, I was like, "There's no chance I'm playing." But like that was the only chance. It's like he's got to let it in. He played unreal. I don't think we won either of the games, but I think we lost like 2-1 and then like 3-2. Or 3-1. Like he played sick the whole weekend. But yeah, I didn't get a chance to actually play. My dream where I did get to play was we played against North Dakota at Nodak.
Okay.
We did a Thanksgiving tournament there my junior year, and yeah, I got to play against Nodak, which was definitely as advertised because it was a Thanksgiving classic. And in the back of my mind, I was like, well, I hope people show up sold out.
Yeah.
Like,
there's nothing else to do
hockey,
there.
I was like, all right, awesome. Like had the whole like, we got pumped, but yeah, it was sweet to actually play there and have the fans and be like, I was like, this is what I grew up watching, WCHA style and stuff.
Yeah.
That was unbelievable.
On the radio, I think it was last week, Patrick Rice, who was saying, why don't the Gophers and North Dakota just schedule a home and home every season? Use 2 of your non-conference games and just do it every season, at least for the ticket sales. Just do it. That's what people want.
They would do ticket sales. I mean, well, every coaching staff, and there's a ton of articles on his, the whole pairwise thing. It's basically like, do you want to schedule tougher opponents and like if you lose, it doesn't hurt you that bad, or do you want to schedule weaker opponents and win all your non-conference and jump up in the pairwise? I mean, from what I've heard about Bobby Moe, he wouldn't mind doing that just because he's not a big travel guy. So I know, well, that's why, he's fine probably doing it against Minnesota State, St. Cloud State, Bemidji, Minnesota Duluth. If it's a
Yeah.
bus trip and like only a few hours, oh yeah, he's on board. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
no doubt,
So
yeah, that would be home and home. Well, yeah, the ticket sales would always be phenomenal.
So when we talk about your playing career, I mean, after high school, you played some junior hockey before Ohio State said, "Hey, come on out." Um, and then afterwards, I mean, you didn't just hang them up. You were able to hang on for a few seasons. You played in the ECHL, got to dress with the Griffins in the AHL. Played,
Yeah,
kind
3 days.
kind of bounced around, and you had a pretty good career. You got to do more than what 99% of hockey players get to do. What
Yeah,
was it? What was it like? And at the same time, at what point did you say, you know what, I'm gonna retire from competitive hockey now?
I didn't say it. My fiance did. Uh, and in full, I mean, and to her credit, like financially, it was not going well. Yeah, I mean, I loved every second. I think I did for 5 seasons, but it was just a constant grind, which I'm
Yeah,
not, I was, that didn't bother me. Like having to go from place to place to find a home and learning how everything worked. And unfortunately, I never really found one place. I never played one season at one place.
yeah,
I was like, unfortunately, like almost immediate. I started in Ontario. Well, I started in Idaho after my senior year, and that didn't go great. Those are my first games of the year. I didn't play at all my senior year at Ohio State. Um, but when I started in Ontario, I remember I started out well. I'm like, great. And then they bring in like a contracted NHL kid. And it's just like, they're just like, all right, see you later. Like, even though I was playing well. And then I went to Toledo where they weren't, yeah, I went from like this third place team in the league, which was early in the season, and Ontario finished fantastic, to like one of the bottom teams in the league in Toledo. And unfortunately, I didn't rise to the occasion. I was more just like basically played like the team did. And it was
yep,
that. And then I just kept, then I tried to play down a league, but all of a sudden, like the SBHL, I ran into a lot of loyalty. Coaches had to their goalies and stuff. I couldn't really get anywhere. And then occasionally, like a couple times I ran into places where like camps, I would be like I play well, but I have like a bad attitude,
mm-hmm.
if you want to call it that.
Well, and you were playing, at a time where the ECHL and the SPHL weren't what they are today, where NHL clubs are using those leagues to
Yes.
develop their goalies. Where back then, it was a different ball game.
Yeah. The ECHL was coming around to being like a development for, they
Yeah.
could have 6 guys signed and
Yep.
just send 2 down and be like, you got to work your way up kind of thing. But so that's right. Like I said, because I mean, my first partner who came out of like, it was me and JF Berube, and then who's played, in the
Yeah.
NHL for seasons.
Yeah.
And then this guy comes in, Darcy Kemper. So fantastic guy. It was, and he obviously didn't last long. Like, I think he played 7 games, had like a 948 save percentage, and won every game, and immediately got called up. And then they brought another kid in who was signed by Colorado. Like, it was just like, where are these kids coming from? And like, but
Yeah.
like they were, teams were starting to sign as many as they could, and just like, all right, let's see who pans out. Like I said, I ran into those 3. I ran into JF Berube, Darcy Kemper, and Chris Carose. And 2 out of those 3 panned out playing the
Yeah.
show. One, Chris didn't do bad. I mean, he ended up playing in Europe too, I believe. So he did well. But like, it was, yeah, it was hard to find a home basically. But I didn't mind the grind. Met a lot of people.
Yeah. But to your point, you've got your fiance, and if you're doing it by yourself, you're probably still grinding it out, trying to find,
Yeah, I would have been kind
be
of glad in a way that it's not anymore. So I'm not, because I mean, I still look at rosters. I'm like, how is this guy playing still?
yeah.
Not just goal. Like, I don't really see many goalies around my age playing in that league, but like players, it's just like, how do you do this? Like,
Yeah, well, or you could be like that Trav Four, who's going all. I don't know if you follow him on social, but just a beer leaguer, basically saying he's playing pro hockey. Basically men's league hockey, but just going
is
anywhere
that the
that,
guy in the Fed?
yeah, anywhere that will let him play. It's like,
Yeah, that I played in that league.
Yeah.
unfortunately. Oh yeah, I was in the SP and I got cut. I needed a place to play and a paycheck. So I went to the Dayton Demons, and hopefully it's better than it was, because yeah, I got some horror stories from that thing. Like I remember one time we had a bus and our bus wouldn't go over like 60 miles an hour or else it would like break down. So like we have like what's scheduled as a 12-hour bus ride, which is now going to take 17 hours. And we get like we have to stop at one point because the bus driver who we've contracted has to sleep for a certain period of time. We don't get to go stay in the hotel. We have to stay on the bus. This is in December, January.
Oh.
He can't leave the bus on. So like at one point, like our solution was we had the bus driver stop at like a Dick's or some kind of camping place, and we bought like a propane heater to put on space heater to put on the bus, and we're lighting this thing while the bus driver goes into his hotel room for like to sleep. So we're trying to sleep with this thing heated, and we're like, "Oh, guys, don't worry, because if it tips over, it like shuts off automatically. So it's not gonna burn the whole thing down."
Yeah, don't worry about the carbon monoxide.
Yeah, so we're sleeping on the bus with the propane. Some guys had the smart idea actually going to the hotel and like just be like, "Can we just sleep in the lobby?" Like I just like,
oh,
I remember that trip, and after we came back, I was like, if I don't get called up to the SP, which I'm asking for a call up to the SP, if I don't get called up, I just have to go home. I just have to go home. Like this is over. Like if this is it. Luckily, I got called up to Peoria and got to hang out there and play there and whatnot for a few games. I backed up rain, but
now you mentioned Peoria. That's where Aaron Forsyth finished his year playing minor hockey. But
yeah, I met him there. I was playing. That's where my first year as junior. I played junior B in Peoria for the Mustangs, and he was on the Rivermen. He was there, so that was a brief interaction. I remember we did some combined dinner thing, and yeah, he said hi and whatnot. He was nice.
I ran into him last year at the Matamidi football game because my kids go to Matamidi, and he's now the athletic director there.
Matamidi?
So, yeah.
Because I knew he was one that Forest Lake. Okay, so he moved on to Matamidi.
Yeah, he's there. And I was like, wait a minute, I thought you were over in Forest Lake, but it was good to see him. But he came and coached after he was done playing, and because he played in the ECHL the year of the NHL lockout. So playing in the ECHL was like playing in the AHL that year because guys playing down. I still remember his dad, Dan, when he was playing, I asked Dan, it's like, well, has he got his first goal yet? Because he was a stay-at-home defenseman. He goes, no. And the next day I see him, and he kind of, does one of these to me. He starts laughing. He goes, I go, oh, did he get his first goal? He goes, no, but he got his first fight. And he calls me up. He goes, Dad, they hurt a lot more than they look on TV. But he retired after that season. I said, well, did nobody want you? Could you not get another contract? And he said that Peoria wanted him back and Carolina wanted him because that's where he had started. He said, but, he had his degree in teaching, and his now wife followed him along 3 stops in one season. And he said, I just looked around and I said, this is as far as I'm going to go. Is it worth hanging on to say I played 5 years at this level, or do I say I played at that level and now I start my career? And I was like, well, that's a pretty mature way of looking at it. But in my mind, I'm going, I want to keep playing hockey.
Oh yeah. If I had a team actually say like, yeah, we want you back, where you're going to play this many games and start that, I would have been like, sign me up. Let's do this. Yeah, I never had that gift. It was just like, yeah, we'll have you at camp. Good luck. Like, it's just like, but I mean, goaltending to me was always like, it was just that one game or, from solidifying yourself to where like the coach and the boys love you and they're just like, yeah, like, and you just build off that. Like, but I just never found that moment necessarily. I mean, I've seen plenty of guys that do it, but yeah, I can never find that moment.
I'm in the beer leagues and I still can't get that moment unless if I bring good beer, then I get that moment. It doesn't matter what I do on the ice. But we say on our team, if nobody gets hurt and there's cold beer in the locker room, regardless of what the scoreboard says, it's a victory.
It's a victory.
Yeah. because we're all getting older. So if nobody gets hurt, we're good there. And if there's,
Well, I mean, our league right now, there's no A league anymore but I'm in the top league. It's called B League. We only have 3 teams. So things get heated every session pretty quickly.
well, and like in Columbus, there is a rabid hockey following and community there, but it's not a big one. It's growing, but it's not big.
It's pretty, I think, massive, honestly, at this point. I mean, like Columbus, the Chiller Adult Hockey League is, I think, the 3rd largest adult hockey league.
Okay.
So B League, players fairly good, whatever. We only have 3 teams. Then you go down to C, D, and E, and they have C has there's 5 leagues on 5 different nights with 20 teams. D League has the same, and E League, which are beginner, but those D and E teams will show up for our game where our girlfriends, wives, fiancés, they don't care. They don't want to watch us play anymore. Nobody watches our games. Nobody's there.
Yeah.
You go to the D and E where these guys they didn't play hockey growing up. They're just picking it up.
Yep.
They got full jerseys and socks and matching equipment, and they got fans in the stands. Their families are all there. We're just I remember because we have a 2-sheeter. We're on one side playing our game, and the other side's got music going in between whistles, and the fans are I was just what is this? And they could have sold tickets and made a profit. It's just wow.
I've been with my wife for 22 years. She's come to 3 of my hockey games. There was one I knew I was starting right after we met. It was my sophomore year of college. There was the red-white game my senior year. And she came to that game for 2 reasons. 1, my mom and dad were in town, so she's like, I feel like I should go. And 2, varsity hockey games is you go between periods, you go to the dorm right across the walkway and have a few beverages, and then you make it back in before the Zamboni. That was a funny one. You might know the name Ryan S. He runs Devonair goaltending here in the Twin Cities. He was a sophomore that year, and we both played the first period, and we're standing by each other, at the partition. And he's going, because I proposed to my wife my sophomore year, and he's like, dude, why did you have to get engaged so early? We can't go to the bars together and everything else. It's Ryan, you're looking at it all wrong. I am the ultimate wingman. It's because at that point my wife had already transferred to St. Kate's. I'm I am the ultimate wingman. I can go out to the bar with you. I'm not looking to pick up anybody, and I have no shame going up to anybody being have you met my friend Ryan over here? And he's we're going out tonight. It's
they're good luck. They're tough luck, buddy. You're well, I'm already engaged, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
What happens here.
He's we're going out tonight. He's we're going to have to wait till next weekend, Ryan. My mom and dad are in town. And he's okay. But then the third game she came to wasn't even to see me play. It was for the Hill Murray alumni game. Her brother played there in the late 90s on some of those teams that should have gone to state. And they didn't have enough goalies to play. So I get this random text hey, you want to play some pickup hockey this day at Aldrich? Is yeah, sure. Well, then my brother-in-law is talking about playing in the alumni game. And I'm you're playing on Saturday too? Yeah, I am too.
What time's that at?
Yeah, it's well, what time are you playing? And he tells me. And so I text this guy back. It's did you ask me to play in an alumni game? He's yeah. It's I didn't go to Hill Murray. I went to high school in Chicago. He's yeah, we can't get any other goalies. We can only find one in you. I was okay. So
that's great.
Really, my wife showed up with the kids to see her brother play, not to see me play, but they got to see me. But it was funny because like my in-laws were there and everything else. It was first time they saw me play hockey, and like after all those years. But yeah, three times that was one of them.
Yeah, mine, Kelsey, she didn't come. We met after, while I was playing pro, but she came to a handful, but she would have to make some long trips. Like she saw me play in Peoria, in Fayetteville. She came to Evansville for my one game there. So she came and watched me play. She has zero passion for hockey.
Yeah.
She doesn't even like competitive sports for that matter. So like she doesn't give two craps. She actually she came to her first Buckeye game, not her first, but by herself. And I was just like, well, you want me to text like Bittner's wife, like our assistant coaches, like he's got our new associate head coach has his girlfriend in town or his fiance, and like can text all these people so you can have fun and like talk to me. I saw where she sat. She sat by herself, didn't talk to anybody. She's texting me and trying to Instagram me the whole time. I'm like, I'm in the middle of like clipping a live game and like doing like video review and
I'm working.
Things.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, her favorite word is like, oh, that free work you do, right? And I'm like, okay. Yeah.
This free work can actually lead to a pretty decent career.
Yeah, that's the thought process. She just goes, well, all right. She's like, don't quit your day job. I was like, that's fair. All right.
Yeah. So, you play at Ohio State, you play some minor league hockey, and now you're back on the coaching staff. What is your role on the coaching staff there? Is it goalie coach? What are you doing with them?
Well, I mean, it's so basically, volunteer assistant coach is my role titled. But yeah, basically the goalie guy. And just, I mean, I can help out on other things, that like watching penalty kill, just getting vibes from players and stuff. I do the pre-scout, so I'll download, whoever we're playing, clip all that. So then the the coaches can go over whatever they want to look at for video. Live games, I just help do the video review, basically just making sure, offsides, penalties, things of that nature, occasionally face-offs and stuff. And then, we haven't had it for a while, actually, due to our small roster, but my first couple of years I did the healthy scratches. So like when our team would go on the road, healthy scratches, stay back, I would run practice for that and stuff. So so basically, and then on the ice, I just help with anything during drills and stuff during regular practice while I'm watching. So
nice.
But main concern is definitely goalies.
Yeah.
Which we do. We're up to, we do at least 3 to 4 goalie sessions a week, which is half hour before practice starts. Then we do a nice cut, work with all 3. And then obviously in practice, if I can stay long enough, I'll watch them.
Yeah.
Just make sure everything's going good. So that's kind of what I'm doing.
And obviously your day job is accommodating to it as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've done pretty well. My boss is phenomenal with me. I mean, I have a certain autonomy with the job. I mean, as long as I'm hitting my numbers and everything's good, there's no real panic button or stuff. I mean, I bring my phone on the ice. Like I've left where I get a phone call and I'm like, bye.
Yeah.
Like,
I remember,
I gotta leave.
I remember one of the guys asking Jack Lafferty the one time, like, you are always here early for practice. Like, don't you have a job? And he just looks at me and goes, as long as my numbers are good, they let me do whatever I want.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of part of it. It's like, as long as those are there, we're good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of the same kind of deal I have going on.
Yeah. So we've been talking a while and it's been fun. And I feel like we could probably go on for a long time. But I asked the same 10 questions to every guest I've had on. So everything from, the Bantam goalies I've had on to Eddie Belfour and Kelly Rudy. I've asked the same 10 questions. And the first one is, and knowing some of your coaches, it could be from one of them. What's the craziest coaching moment from your playing days?
Oh, craziest coaching moment. So 2 really quick. The first one was when I was playing junior B, my first year in Peoria. Our head coach, Kevin Loon. I remember our first, you've heard horror stories and stuff. Like I remember after we got back from thing and just, we lost or something, he's, comes in and just mother effing everyone. Like, you suck. You were bad. You're brutal. You gave me going down the room, everything, coolers everywhere. 6 a.m. tomorrow, bag skate. We skated for an hour and a half. And I was just like, wow, this actually is legitimate. Like this actually happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my senior year when I wasn't playing, you can look up who our head coach was. Not a fan. But I remember our captain, Sean Duddy, after comes in, you guys are playing like crap,
Yeah.
standard yelling speech for a coach. He starts to leave the room, and in our locker room, you go down like the player lockers, like your dry locker, and then the coach's room was right there. So like there's a little gap of like, where you can still hear stuff going on in the locker room. So he leaves, and our captain's like, 1, 2, 3, like, all right, boys, no worries. Starts clapping. We got this. Let's go, boys. We can do, positive. Like he's bringing the positive back. Guy comes sprinting around the corner, head coach, and goes like, "We're not fucking all right, Donnie." Like just screaming at our captain. And we're just like, and then his response, he goes, "Okay." Like I'm not playing, so I'm just in the corner, kind of like my stall, just dying, kind of on the inside, like.
Yeah,
like,
you're doing the turtle so that he can't see you laughing.
Like, let's see how this third period goes. Like,
I better be ready.
Yeah, that wasn't happening with him.
So the next question: what's your favorite all-time goalie mask?
Oh, my current one. I bought a SK 2000 Cooper.
Oh, I wore one of those in college until I got another concussion.
I bought one of those like off some Facebook
thing
where they refurbish them. So I like that thing. So I think I've seen a like picture of myself from somebody taking pictures of like beer league stuff, and like I'm just like I look so stupid. It's not like it just must be so annoying to be shooting on me. Like it just looks ridiculous. I think.
You know what though, like because when I wore the coupe, the SK, I went with the Hasha cage because in college we couldn't wear the
cat
eye at that point. Well, and that's a rule I don't understand. Like we had to wear the bird cage, but we didn't have to wear a helmet on the bench. Now they let the kids wear the cat eye, but they got to wear a helmet on the bench.
Yeah,
it's like, but so I had the Hasha, but I loved it because it was light. The vision was unparalleled. Just a great helmet. And I was sharing this on one of the recent episodes. Like I didn't wear a dangler. I don't like them.
Oh, I hear you. Yeah.
So I wear this helmet for a year. Nothing on the neck. Like totally exposed. Didn't take a stick. Didn't take a puck. Nothing. After the concussion, I go back. I had a coat. Well, it was this one here. Longer neck. Wider. So I didn't need a dangler because it was all covered. One of the first shots just finds its way, comes up under the mask, just leaves this big old bruise. And like it stung a little bit, but I was just laughing. Like, you got to be kidding me. I go a year with like nothing here. And now I'm going to get it.
Feel if I'm just standing and not in my stance, actually, like the thing, like my chin is kind of exposed with this SK.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me. It's funny. I've gotten hit in the head. It doesn't ring. The puck just like catapults off it. I was just like, I wish I wore this thing. It's super light compared to obviously because I have like a legitimate like Bauer, regular pro model helmet.
Yeah.
And like the first couple I took off the head with this thing, I was like, I don't feel a thing. Doesn't hurt. Super light. I was like, but
yeah, my buddy asked. He actually got one of people now make them with the carbon fiber, so it's. And he loves it because again,
I would like it. That would be fun to try. Yeah.
Yeah. So the intent of that one, you're one of the few people that took it, with that intent of like the actual mask. But what is your favorite mask with the paint job?
Oh,
not necessarily yours, but like for me, it's always going to be Eddie Belfour and the Eagle.
That is a classic. Like you can't. I guess if I have to look at it from pro stance like that, I liked Cujo's. I thought Cujo's was pretty,
the dog or his original mask from St. Louis with the trumpets.
Not the trumpets, the dog.
Okay, yeah.
Because whenever I saw it, like I thought that was pretty intense and just like
that is a good one.
Like him, you know what I mean? There was a reason for it. You know, it was like his name, and it still like kind of worked with like the team aspect. So
did you read his book about his upbringing?
I just saw that he actually has a book. It was funny. I was looking through, like, good read.
It's a really good read. Like being a Blackhawks fan, I couldn't stand Cujo because he was a Hawk killer.
Yeah.
But reading that book, I've gained such an appreciation for him because his childhood was weird. Like
weird to say if it looked nice.
Yeah, I mean, he really didn't have parents that really looked after him. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
So he made something of himself, and it's a really good read and makes you appreciate the guy a little bit more. Um, so the next question: what's your favorite rink that you've played at?
I would get yelled at if I guess I didn't say the shot, but like I'll probably maroon and gold, honestly, going back. Like it was between that shot and Nodak, but maroon and gold when we like just those, varsity games, like that place obviously, was full and just loud and what I mean? Because growing up, that's what I watched and stuff. And I just remember getting there. It was everything I imagined, honestly. So
Yeah.
Forest Lake, maroon and gold, like varsity games.
Yeah. I mean, to just walk in that rink, you'd be like, this place is not, it wasn't a dump. It was just like, it's a glorified pole barn, but you fill that place up on a Friday night.
Oh,
you play all your games there. It had character.
That's the thing. See, because that was the first rink I really ever played at, period.
Yeah.
Where my lessons, like I was like, oh, this is status quo. You know what I mean? Like that was the exception. So if anything was better than that, I was like, wow, they got a really nice place here.
Well, not only that, but like even the people that worked there were characters. Like
Yes.
Daryl was something else. Then there was the other guy. He was just kind of like a bigger, quiet guy, but funny as hell.
I remember those guys.
It was an interesting place.
I remember Daryl. I remember we had to give Daryl like, hey, play this for our warm-ups, like a CD, and that was our sound tech, Daryl.
Yeah,
press play.
He was a good guy though. So what's your favorite stick that you've used?
Whatever I have right now, not the new Hyperlight from Bauer, but the previous one. I forget what it was. The previous Bauer one, and it's just because what's going on. I don't know why. It was just like for some reason it's super awesome that I love it. And actually, there's maybe I'll send you a picture of it because Tommy Napier used to tape his stick weird. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he still does it, but he put this huge thing right above the paddle. It's just a huge roll of tape. So basically you're gripping the stick like this.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but I love it. There's an equipment guy who was like, here, you need a stick for beer league, take this one. And it had his tape on it, and I didn't have time to cut it all off. So I used it, and I was like, this feels phenomenal. But anyways, whatever the last Bauer one was, I was probably going to have the best stick ever when Warrior made me a stick. And then they made me I'll say that was Warrior made me a stick with the foam inlays back in
of course.
2009 or 2009 or 2010. And it was like my everything, like my offset that I wanted, the height, the curve, the look, the colors, and they made me 2. And then all of a sudden, try out. And I was like, this is it. This is the stick that's going to take. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, because you could play the puck too. I mean,
once I got to college, I could not. That was funny about I thought I could too. And then I got here and like, oh, these guys actually forecheck pretty hard and quick. And I just like crap.
Didn't have the time.
And when they dump the puck, it's with intention to like go around you or like, they have a plan.
Yeah.
So then basically I would hit the panic button and it was just like, I mean, I think I'm second all time with assists at Ohio State, but that's because of Matt Bartowski, because I would leave it behind the net and he'd just go end to end. But that Warrior stick was the best. However, after I got it, I was like, go to our equipment guy, order me these, man. He's like, oh yeah, we can only use Bauer now. Or no, back then it was, oh, we have to use Nike this year. I was just like, but they made me these sticks. I thought I could use whatever. He's like, nope. It's just I was rattled and I was just like, just order me whatever.
So I still haven't converted to the composite goalie sticks. I'm still using foam cores wherever I can find them.
Yeah.
And I was on Pro Stock Hockey, and they had a Colin Delia Warrior foam core. It was a shorter paddle, but I've been reading more and more about using shorter paddles is probably better for your game. So I'm like, let's give it. But it had a trigger grip, and I've been wanting to cut a trigger grip into my stick, but
Right.
I don't want to mess it up. So I'm like, this one already has it in there. So it was one of Delia's Pro returns. So I bought it. And I'm like, you know what? I love the trigger grip, and I'm digging the shorter paddle. Now the only thing that kind of throws me off sometimes when I'm on my post on my stick side, because I play the way I was taught on my feet.
Right.
But I put that stick out to try and block the pass out, and the trigger, like I gotta readjust my fingers each time.
It doesn't.
Right, not the end of the world. The pros far outweigh the cons with the trigger grip.
Well, see, does that come? It's like comes down and then like goes in or whatever.
Yeah, there's like that little notch on
So I did that back
for the
when
finger.
I was a peewee. So because the kid who I was playing with, and these were wood sticks, and his dad was a wood cart, and he put it so he could grip his stick harder. So he had it back then, and so I tried it out too. Absolutely hated it. Like I remember I tried, and it was only because I think because my dad ordered me a bunch of Christian sticks. He would order me at the start of the season like 16 of them. Because unfortunately, when I was a kid, I mean, you probably saw it when I was my 1 year in high school. Like, yeah, I was good in practice hard and everything, but I hated getting scored on. I would break so many sticks, just smashing them and stuff.
Well, and those Christian ones were so easy to break.
Oh, right on the heel, they just shatter and stuff. But yeah, I remember trying the trigger finger. Like my dad did it to like 3 of them, and I remember like losing 2 games in a row, and yep, those broke real quick. And I was just like, not doing a trigger finger, like whatever that was. I was like, I don't want it. But
yeah, no, I like it. And now what I like about it is I have one that has it. So if I buy one that doesn't, I can just drop my router in there and boom, perfect template now.
No, but I'll show you my tape job on my paddle with what I do now. It's pretty outrageous, but I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny seeing some of these different tape jobs goalies have been using kind of at that shoulder of the stick.
Jakob, like he puts like it's like it's for your skates, like where you have a bunion or something. He puts a bunion pad on his like trigger finger, like on the thing. And I go, what is this for? He's like, oh, when it hits the stick, it doesn't vibrate, it doesn't hurt. I was just like, bull crap. It's like, why do you do this? I still make fun of him for it, but he's
sold on it.
He is. He's sold. It doesn't vibrate or something. I'm like, okay, bud.
All right, works for you.
Yeah.
So the next question, what's your favorite youth hockey memory?
I don't know. We weren't that good ever, unfortunately. I don't know. Like, there's 2 vivid things I remember. Like, one was like, so when all my buddies were a team when we were mites, so we only play other mite teams, and we never lost a game all season. We were like 24-0. And the last shot of the season, I couldn't, as a kid, I didn't catch a puck, couldn't catch a puck. But somebody shot it on me, and like it was going 5-hole, and I put my glove there and caught it, and it was like the buzzer rang. I was just like, yeah, I caught it, we won. Like just dancing around like that. And the other one was we're playing Moorhead in some Squirt A tournament, and this kid got a pass out in front and took like a shot, and I just like old school toe up, glove save, like windmill and everything in his face, and then they put it on the highlight reel at the end of the season. But when it comes to like actual youth, like we were good, but no, I never made it to state or anything like that. So probably just those.
Those are good ones. So the next one's a fun one. What's the best chirp you've heard on the ice, off the ice, directed at you, not directed at you, or from you?
Best ones, I guess. So Miami, playing against Miami, great place to play. I'm on the bench. I think this is one of my, if not my first game of my freshman year or something, but both of them right there. First of all, I'm opening the door. You open the doors to back up.
That was my college career.
I number one, it annoys me, but I would do it. I'm opening it. Miami guy goes like, "Oh, why Carlson earned that scholarship?" Then a guy like in a different voice comes back like, "He's not on scholarship." I was just like, "That's pretty good." And then
Nice.
like I hadn't heard this one before playing, obviously, but like now it's not that. Now it's more cliche, I guess. But like another guy, same game, goes, "Carlson, why are you dressed? This isn't practice." It's like, okay. During the game.
Seeing as though you're working with the goalies, when I had David Hutchinson of in goal on, he said that one of his son's goalie coaches looked at him and said, "You must be really good at dodgeball."
That hurts.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, that's so like to the core, but so good." Like,
Yeah.
how are you mad if somebody lobs that one at you?
There's one I know that I didn't hear, but it was some kid was they were lined up as at a face off. A buddy told me this one, and he's just like whacking the other guy's like skates, like right on the back, and he just looks at him and he's like, "Buddy, you're about as tough as Harry Potter. Leave it be." Like,
nice.
There's some more too. I can't think of them. Evan Moyes was good at these things. He was our one of our goalies that left. He's got a podcast too, but he had some good ones. Because he was like he's a backup practice goalie, if you want to call him that. I like, he always called himself practice. I'm like, you're not a practice goalie. You're our third string. But he would do this thing where if guys were on the other team were skating the puck up or back, he would lean over the bench and yell as loud as he could, like a horrific, like horror scream. And like, oh, it was hilarious and like super disrespectful and just not a part of it, but I loved every second of it. Our coaching staff one time made him tell him like, "Can you calm him down?" Because he was doing it like back, forth, like just yelling at these guys. He's like, "Can you calm him down?" And I had to be like, "All right, Moise, you get 2 a period. You get like," I was like, we came up with some agreement. I was like, "You got to pick your spots," because I was like, I guess you're bothering our own team right now. But yeah, that's what I can remember for chirps. I kind of thought that was one too, just screaming at guys as a chirp.
Yeah, one of my buddies from college. In fact, we played against. We were teammates in youth hockey. Then we went to different high schools, and we were opponents. And then when we got to college, I'm moving in, and I see his dad looked like Wilford Brimley, the diabetes guy.
Yeah.
And I see Mr. Palucci. I'm like, what's going on? And here comes Jimmy walking behind him with this stuff. He's in the room right next to me, and he's rooming with the kid that played at one of the other high schools from our league, which was funny. It's like, how did 3 Catholic League kids wind up next to each other? And it was funny because in the Catholic League, like, we all pick on each other, but like, we're a family. If somebody picks on one of us, we turn around and we all gang up on them. So that just like mess with the heads of everybody else in our dorm. We would be saying all these things, and somebody would say something about our school, and like all 3 of us are like, "What did you say?" Yeah. But Jimmy would just look at me and he'd say, "Hey, you got the fastest door in the MIAC." I was like, "Dude, I made the team. You didn't, and you're chirping me."
Fastest door in the MIAC.
Yeah.
I like that.
So I've held on to that one for many years. Yeah, it's like that's quite the distinction, especially when you're on the JV team. But so, what is the worst post game beer?
Warm. Like,
I agree.
Warm.
Outside of that, if somebody brought beer and it's cold, it's good.
I mean, I'm not a fancy guy. I'm just straight up. I'm just straight up domestics, pretty much. Like nothing crazy beyond that. So yeah, just warm's probably the worst.
I was gonna say, well, Forest Lake is Busch Light is kind of the beer of the town.
Is that this beer? Okay. I mean, I haven't been back home for years, but I mean, I was actually like, you believe me or not, but yeah, I didn't drink once in high school.
I believe that.
I was so like, the horror stories, like you get caught drinking, like your career's over and this and that. Yep. And I full-heartedly believed that.
I was the same way.
Never did. And then I remember my junior year, so you weren't there yet, but like the older guys were like, you want to come out, or like, we're going over to my place. And I was like, okay. And then all these older guys who I sort of looked up to and stuff were like drinking and doing other things. I was just like, what? But I still was just like, it's like, I don't want to get caught doing this. And I was so paranoid.
I was the same way. And when I was in college, our team rule, because we had guys that were 21, our team rule was you don't drink the night before a game. So basically, Thursday and Friday night, you got to stay sober.
Yeah.
Not that hard. Well, we were playing at the time, they had the Augsburg Cup, which was the postseason tournament for JV in the MIAC. We're playing in the MIAC Cup. So my mom and dad came up because it was over my birthday weekend. And I want to say my birthday was on Saturday. So rather than take the bus back and forth each night to Winona, my mom and dad had a hotel room, and I stayed with them. That was cleared by the coach. And as a nice guy, is like, well, the goalies really should be traveling. We should get a good night's rest and not have bus legs and everything else. So
yeah,
my buddy Greener, he stayed in the room with us. And some of the other guys that lived locally were able to stay. But so we get back to the room on Friday night, and it's my 21st birthday. And my dad hands me a beer. And I was like, Dad, we got a game tomorrow. And he looks at me and goes, shut the F up. You're having one beer on your birthday. And then he pulls one out for Greener, and he's like, I don't care. Like he knew he was playing tomorrow, but he's like, I don't care. I'm only having one. He's like, Coach isn't going to find out that we had one beer. But I'm like, Dad, like it's like, my 21st birthday, and because I'm a rule follower, I'm like, Dad, I can't have a beer. He's like, shut the F up. You're having a beer with your dad on your 21st birthday. I was like, okay, twist my arm.
now sneaking into the bathroom with it, dumping half of it down. Like, oh, that went down easy.
Well, and like now I have found if I have a beer before the game, that it calms me in a way where it just like knocks off that anxiety. Yeah. And I play better.
I'm the opposite. Like our guys, they'll meet up and stuff. Nope, I won't do one. I remember doing it. I forget when we did it or whenever it was, some summer hockey or something where like we were drinking during the day, I had a few, and then it was just like, well, let's go get a skate in just for fun. And I got just I was just like, where am I? I was like, I forgot how to play goalie. And well, I'm not like as competitive as I am. I just take it. So I was just like, nope. Yeah. So I can't have one I'll have plenty after, but no.
Yeah. Well, I got to drive through Lino to get home from the super rink, so I give myself a maximum of 2. I'm not giving those guys any extra chance.
Yeah, exactly.
I even use cruise control driving through Lino. I'm like, nope, you can't tell me I was going over because cruise control don't lie. So when you tape your stick, do you go heel to toe or toe to heel?
Heel to toe.
Okay, you're in with most goalies. I've only had a few that say they go toe to heel, so they're kind of the oddballs. So when you get to choose, what's your favorite number to wear and why?
I'll stick with my college number. It's 41. And so I don't know why, but so in high school I was 37 because they didn't have 31. But then when I started wearing that, I was like, oh, that's cool. Brett had 41, which I thought was super cool. Then in juniors, you get 1, 30, 35, or I don't know, whatever one. And I was wearing 1 because I thought that was kind of cool. Just you're number 1, like sweet, like old school. Like, oh, now it's retro and cool, number 1. And then I got Ohio State, and one of our other goalies was already wearing 1. And I was just like, how about 41? Or I think I did some dumb number, like I wanted to be 7. And our equipment guy was like, not a chance. I was like, what about 72? That was before Bobrovsky.
Yeah.
And he was just like, why? I was like, why not? And he said no. So I finally settle like, what about 41? It has a 1 in it. And it was my buddy's number in high school and stuff, and it'd be kind of cool. And he was like, that works. And I wore it all of college. And that, that was the highlight of my career, basically, my time in college. So that's just kind of my number now.
It's a good number. And I remember when I was talking to my goalie coach from St. Mary's, and he was asking me, he's like, "What's with some of these goalies with like 88 and 72 and 19?" And it's like, I don't know, but to me, I don't care what number they're wearing, as long
Yeah.
as there's a cool story behind it. Like, why?
Well,
You know,
actually, because when I did the Blue Jackets main camp back in 2015, and so I got signed up for that. I was Bob's partner, and I walk into the locker room to undress. And I'm like, oh, and like they gave me a number. It was number 80. Still have the jersey. Like they gave me, because they put your name and number on it. And so I was just like, I'm number 80. And I was like, if I play anywhere this year, like I'm definitely trying to bring this with.
Yeah.
Places I went, they weren't willing to give me that number. But
so you skated in the Blue Jackets camp, but if I remember right, you were in Washington's at one point too, weren't you?
yeah, so Blue Jackets camp, that was their actual main camp in 2015. That was circumstantial. And then in 2009, I was at Washington Capitals prospect camp.
Okay.
So all the young guns. But yeah, I was there with like Carlson, John Carlson.
Yeah.
So he had just played in USHL, and they basically were like signing him. So I was there with him. When the other goalie was Braden Holtby. So I wasn't impressed. I really wasn't. I was just like, I don't know where this is gonna. Like he's good, but you know what I mean? I wasn't like, oh, this is the next whatever. And again, I think it just comes down to like, you have a couple games or a season or something, you stack up and people believe in you, and then they're just, it takes more to tear you down than it's harder to tear someone down, I think, when it comes to goaltending rather than build them up. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this guy's the best, he does great. And then it's just like, how many games or seasons until you're finally like, all right, this guy stinks now.
Well, and I think too, we're at a point with widespread talent where it might not be that it wasn't that we weren't good enough. It was, we just didn't get the eyes or the shot.
Correct.
Holtby, for whatever reason, was, scouted, more than you were, so that they were maybe invested in him more. So they gave him a shot over you. I think we've reached that point where,
I mean, in all fairness, during that Washington camp, there was Bruce Boudreau was running a drill, and the drill was 2-on-0s, where the guys started at the blue line basically and did a quick spin and came in 2-on-0, and they could do whatever they wanted. And I think the majority of it was they're supposed to do a backdoor pass. So I'm aggressive. I'm way out on the shooter.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to cheat the drill because I want to get better and find out how to do it. And I mean, these guys are WHL, all-stars drafted kids. And so they are just lighting me up. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Bruce finally is just like, he had nothing to say to me. I was just like, it is what it is, bud. I'm not trying to cheat. And then the other goalies go in and like they're way deep in their net getting across. And I was like, what's this crap?
Was Mitch Korn at that camp? And the reason I ask is I've heard stories of him. He likes to see goalies in that situation maybe not succeeding because he likes to see how they handle themselves in adverse situations because he feels that tells a bigger story.
Yeah, he wasn't there yet. He got there the next year. The guy they had there was kind of a weird story. I forget his name. I'd have to look it up. But he was like, he never played NHL or really any high level of goaltending. Mm-hmm. He just had gotten into this position with Washington and was doing well. But unfortunately, after that season, they let him go for whatever reason. But then that's when they got Korn.
Okay. All right. So the last question, it's taken us a while to get here. That's why I don't call it the rapid fire session anymore. What advice do you have for young goalies?
Yeah, I mean, just coming from a coaching standpoint, just listen to everyone, take what they have, try everything, and be yourself. And I guess I don't mean that like just whatever works for you. Be yourself and stick with it. If you're super aggressive, if you're deep, play your style.
Yeah.
Like promote your attributes and like what makes you good. You're not going to be good at every. Not everyone's amazing with a glove or blocker or lateral movement or whatever, but find your attributes and just promote them as much as possible.
Yeah, play your style, but realize you can improve your style.
Yes, yeah, that's what I mean by listen to your coaches.
Yeah,
so if there's something to try, might as well try it. And as long as you put your whole thought and effort into I'm doing this, and if it doesn't work out, okay,
yeah,
and there's at least you tried it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Dustin, I mean, we've only been talking for a few minutes,
Yeah.
but it's been really fun, reconnecting with you, talking, sharing some old stories. When you're back in Forest Lake, let me know. We'll grab a beer.
For sure. I'm hoping to make the Minnesota trip. It's our last 2 regular season games, so hopefully I'll be back for those.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Maybe I'll have to try and get some tickets and bring the boy.
There you go.
But it's been fun talking. We'll keep in touch, and thank you.
Thank you, man. Have a great one.
All right, you too, bud.
Bye.
Bye.